In today's Ultimate Stats preview, we're going to be running through all the data, predicted points and projected numbers over the next few weeks to give you the best advantage going into double game week 25. Now, before we start today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as this is a potential new series that we're going to be starting on the channel, if you do enjoy it, make sure you absolutely smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you think of it. Of course, let's dive straight into with the 11ify data. I absolutely love 11ify. Please go and check out their amazing website. I use this in pretty much most of my videos and most of my decision making as well in terms of teams I would be looking to target. So over the next 5 game weeks, as you can see here, 6 game weeks you can see here. Here are the predicted clean sheet numbers. Of course, it doesn't include the double game weeks for Liverpool or Aston Villa. Those are additionally available on their website if you want to see those games added to those numbers. So looking across the next 6 game weeks, Arsenal's numbers are looking absolutely stupendous. So I feel if you've got a Raya, a Gabriel, a Saliba, very, very easy holds for the next few weeks. I think with, of course, a double game week, a lot more people are going to be looking to buy players from those teams rather than focusing on the Arsenal defence. But for the next few weeks, if you are in the market for a potential defender, I definitely think the Arsenal defence could be worth potentially buying into. Of course, Liverpool with the double game week this week, Trent, Konate and Virgil van Dijk all could be pretty decent options as well. Palace have actually been really, really good defensively. It's a shame they don't have a double game week this week. However, as we'll come on to see a little bit later, their XG numbers have been really, really good in the defensive department. Of course, they've got some fantastic players. A lot of us already own Munoz, so definitely a player I would be looking to keep over the next few weeks. We're also seeing Bournemouth appear on this list with some great fixtures coming up for them. So Kirkes and Huijsen definitely going to be on a lot of people's radars, and I definitely think could be worthwhile with some pretty decent clean sheet data across the park as well. Chelsea's numbers are standing out because of their 27 and 28 fixtures, with them facing 2 of the bottom 3 clubs in those weeks. Fulham's numbers as well over the next few weeks are pretty steady, so probably worthwhile kind of keeping hold of the likes of Anthony Robinson. I couldn't quite think of his name then, but yeah, he's still a pretty decent option. Of course, if you are looking at a Villa defender as well this week, we're seeing a 41% chance for the game against Ipswich, followed by probably around a 10 to 20% chance for the Liverpool game as well. Following that, it does get a little bit more difficult with nothing peaking above 22%, but overall across the board, still pretty decent. Newcastle and Lewis Hall probably going to be players that we're starting to look away from over the next few weeks. Of course, match day 26 is the standout there, but following that, 10 and 9%ers. If you can get away with benching them for the difficult fixtures, fair enough, easy holds. But probably if you're in the market for a new defender, probably maybe would potentially look for either a double game week player or of course potentially investing in a Bournemouth or a Palace defender. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the projected goal numbers from 11ify. Again, Liverpool top in the list with very, very good numbers. Again, not even factoring in the fact that they've got a second game against Aston Villa in game week 25. So any sort of investment into the Liverpool attack is going to be worthwhile. Well, sorry, hiccup, really bad there. City's numbers we are seeing do start to turn around match day 29, match day 30. And if you are on a match day 29 free hit and then a game week 30 wildcard, Haaland potentially could be one of those players that does start to enter our thought process over that time period. I'd say for the next 4 weeks, he's not really in any sort of consideration, with City still having pretty difficult fixtures. However, 29 and 30 is where he does start to become an option for me, in my personal opinion. I know a lot of people are, of course, looking to sell off Cole Palmer as well, as they've become increasingly frustrated with his lack of big returns over the past few weeks. However, I would stay patient and hold for 27 and 28. As you can see, there's some really, really strong projected goal numbers coming in those 2 weeks, and weeks where you could potentially even look at a Cole Palmer captaincy, especially in 27 with Liverpool having lower projected numbers and Chelsea having the highest projected numbers across that game week. Bournemouth's numbers, again, looking really, really strong, so any sort of investment into their players definitely going to be worthwhile in my opinion as well. Villa, without even the Liverpool game, hitting a 2.22 across their numbers for match day 25 as well, so any sort of investment into the attackers as well could be pretty decent. The one that I do want to point out, and the one that I do think the 11ify model potentially is struggling to get grips with this season, is the Nottingham Forest numbers. As you can see, they're all the way down in 16th on this list and don't really fancy them to go and smash teams apart. However, after just scoring 7 goals, being really, really clinical in front front of goal, I think maybe they do deserve a little bit more credit, and they are one of the teams this season that has completely broke the 11-5 model most weeks, so potentially one to maybe just avoid potentially kind of forcing any sort of judgment on that. Let's keep the data going with the team data. Taking a look first at the expected goal numbers over the past 10 game weeks. I absolutely love to look at expected goals for and conceded. I think it's a really, really good metric to know which teams are performing well and which teams are struggling defensively and which ones we potentially could be looking to attack. So obviously Liverpool top, they are absolutely smashing it at the moment. We'll see when we come on to the XG conceded numbers as well. So any sort of investment into them or into slot is going to be worthwhile for this double game week. Newcastle as well are up there, so maybe one to potentially consider if you were looking to offload Alexander Isak for a Watkins. We can see Aston Villa all the way down towards the bottom with 11.5 over the past few weeks. However, Newcastle have been really, really good, really, really fantastic in terms of their projected numbers, so maybe worth potentially keeping Alexander Isak, a player who has been in fine form. We're also seeing Bournemouth up there, so that bodes well, of course, for the likes of Kluivert, Otara, who's the other one they've got? Semenyo. It bodes extremely well for all these players if you were potentially thinking about taking a little bit of a cheeky punt on them. Of course, if we move on to the XG conceded chart, we can see, of course, Southampton are rock bottom. No real surprises there. Always a team I would be looking to target. Spurs as well also fall into that bracket. They seem like a very, very weak defence this season, and it is kind of marrying with the data. Below Ipswich over the past 10 game weeks for XG conceded. Yeah, that's kind of where Spurs are at the moment. And again, a fixture I would feel very, very comfortable playing a lot of my players in. Same against Ipswich, same against Leicester. Manchester United as well. I know we see them as this big established club. However, I think sometimes you've got to look away from the FDR rating and potentially look towards what their XG conceded numbers are saying. And as we can see right here, they're not too great. They're towards the bottom end of this list. Of course, I'd probably say, you know, they're kind of sandwiched with everyone. I think pretty much once you get past kind of Leicester, you have this middle-ish bracket, probably all the way down to about Wolves Villa, and then you kind of enter your top echelons of picks. So they're kind of within that medium bracket, but definitely a team I would not be fearful of playing some of my attackers in. In terms of some of the best defences over the past 10 game weeks, no real surprise we're seeing Liverpool and Arsenal in there. We saw it with the 11-5 predicted data as well for clean sheets. These two sides expected to do really, really well. Some difficult fixtures coming up for Newcastle, so we might potentially see them shoot a little bit further up this list, but potentially could go against the 11-5 data, and maybe if you can bench your likes of your Lewis Halls, your Dan Burns, whoever you've got from the back line, could be worth just keeping them and obviously rotating around the more difficult fixtures that they do have coming up. Of course, Nottingham Forest have been there, and Fulham as well, pretty consistent across the board, and Aston Villa with 12.8 as well, with a decent fixture this week, of course, could be potentially worth a little bit of investment. Try and get the maximum you can out of that Ipswich game. Moving away from team data, let's focus on players and potential assistant manager points coming up for the next few weeks. Starting off with the total FPL points over the past 5 game weeks and which players have been doing well over that period. Foden top actually really, really surprises me. However, a few game weeks ago, he of course did put in back-to-back mega hauls. I imagine they're still what is propping him up on this list. Of course, Chris Wood's hat-trick, Justin Kluivert's hat-trick, and Mateta, who's been bagging braces for fun. I think all these players are definitely on a lot of people's radars. Of course, Mateta and quite a few Crystal Palace players in here you can see as well. Gahey and Munoz and another defender as well down the bottom. A lot of love for Crystal Palace in terms of their FPL points over the past few weeks. They've been a team that I think have gone silently under the radar and have been doing exceptionally well. Of course, Alexander Isak also features on this list, a player that we have spoke about potentially switching out for Ollie Watkins, or that's kind of been the consensus with this double game week coming up, but I'm starting to lean against it. Of course, we saw that the Newcastle data has been really good. We can see he's been one of the magnets for points as well over the past 5 game weeks as well. So, you know, it's one to potentially monitor. Haaland as well is starting to creep back into this list of top point scoring players. Now, of course, he's not at the top where he's doing a lot of damage. However, he is towards the top of this list. And I definitely think, you know, when we hark back to that 11-5 data, looking at the projected goal numbers, he could be one of those players that does exceptionally well over the next few weeks. And potentially one that I feel a lot of people are going to be looking at around 29 on a free hit, or of course as a transfer, or potentially on that game week 30 wild card. We're also seeing a few Bournemouth players feature on this list, which bodes well with their really, really good run coming up. Of course, Kluivert, Dango, Semenyo and Kirkez all on this list as well. And Cole Palmer as well. I wanted to point him out on this list because I know a lot of people have been very frustrated with his recent performances. However, if he's still featuring in some of the top FPL points players, and of course with his super high ownership, I just think he's one of those players that we need to keep a bit of patience with. We saw with the 11-5 numbers coming up as well, some decent projected goal involvement numbers in 27 and 28. So for me personally, I would just hold him, just leave him be for a few more weeks. Of course, you can probably switch him out on the game week 30 wildcard if that is the route you did want to go for. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the expected goal involvement over the past 5 game weeks. As you can see here, Mateta has absolutely been flying and been one of the, if you've gone for him, fair play. I know FPL Raptors absolutely smashed it with him. There's a few people in my mini league at work as well who've also gone for Mateta, and he's done absolutely exceptionally well. He was a player we were looking at a few weeks ago. We ended up going Chris Wood, so I don't feel we've kind of missed out too much. Chris Wood has also been delivering exceptionally well over that time period. But if you went for Mateta, fair play. However, would I be going for him right now? Probably not. The Palace fixtures are starting to take a little bit more of a turn. 2 players that I know have been doing well, but haven't really been delivering the points. It is Visser and it is Mbeumo. Both of these guys have been picking up really, really good numbers. And I do feel like it is probably going to be a point where one of them does absolutely explode over the next few weeks with some decent fixtures. Of course, they're not going to be on a lot of people's minds right now with obviously everybody focusing towards double game weeks, and that is completely fair. But I think maybe if you've got Visser or Mbeumo, it might be worth potentially just holding them rather than kind of being sold by this luxury of the new toy of the double game week for me. Personally, I think I would keep them. They're putting up exceptional data numbers over the past few weeks, and I think it is just a matter of time again before they do go big. Kluivert's on there again, Semenyo's on there again, so all going to be worthwhile pickups over the next few weeks. We're also seeing Cole Palmer again feature on this list, and I think that's another thing for me is that he is actually creating alright data numbers. Again, it's not like world beater, but it's still pretty decent. He's still picking up okay-ish points, and there's no real, I kind of feel like no real justification to be potentially selling him off right now, and I just wanted to outline that in today's video. Let's keep on moving then. Let's take a look at the hub predicted points for game week 25 and kind of look at captaincy for this week. I think there's only one player you should be potentially captaining this week. It is, of course, Mohamed Salah. As you can see, miles above absolutely everybody else in terms of the predicted numbers coming up for this week. Watkins as well is, of course, a strong option, and I do feel like a lot of people are potentially going to be looking at him if he is fit and available with his 8.8 predicted points. Could be a really, really good player to go and get in this week. However, I think personally for me, I am going to stick with Alexander Isak over the next few weeks rather than kind of being tricked in potentially to this double game week. Rodgers also features on this list. The only problem I do have with Rodgers is the amount of competition that he now does have. Of course, they've got Marlon, they've got Asensio, they've got Rashford. There are so many players that are going to be competing for these spots. I think if you've got Rodgers, fair. I think keep him. If you haven't, I don't know if I'd be 100% tempted to go and buy him this week. The double game week is tempting. However, the longevity of Rodgers, I do think is starting to dwindle, and I would rather have a Bournemouth mid for the longer term rather than in the short term over the next few weeks. Of course, there is the potential as well that Aston Villa may blank in game week 29, so you do get that extra fixture now. However, if you're not planning on free hitting in 29 or you've not got the free hit in 29, you're actually going to lose that fixture again come a couple game weeks, so probably booking yourself in for a pretty early transfer, and that for me doesn't quite feel too ideal. Finally, let's take a look at the assistant manager top predicted points for the next 3 game weeks. Of course, if you were to activate the chip this week, I would recommend one of the top 2 managers. Of course, you've got the cheaper option with Unai Emery, of course having that potential table bonus come the Liverpool game, which could be huge, but you're still probably going to get that Ipswich fixture out of the way as well, which is a really, really good bet. But for me, I think just go in slot. If you've got that Liverpool slot available, no pun intended there, but if you do have it available, I think for me personally, he does just represent the best option to go for, the best pick out of the bunch. And I think for me, if I can get him, I would. I'd pay that extra premium because I feel confident that Liverpool could go and win both of these games over that period. Of course, if you've already activated the assistant managership in 24 as well, if you've still got that Liverpool slot available, still would be going for it. However, if you've not, you've got a Gakpo, you've got a Trent, you've got a Salah, I think Emery is going to be your best option with a double game week. And of course, like I said, that potential for a table bonus. That was the Ultimate Stats preview. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. If you want to see this series more often, let me know in the comments section. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in double game week 25.